Elizabeth Sladen originally played the remarkable Sarah Jane Smith in the hit television show Doctor Who. From 1973 to 1976, she was the Doctor's companion opposite John Pertwee and Tom Baker. She is one of the most well-known Doctor Who companions of all time, to a point where Sladen was invited to return in The Five Doctors and agreed to work on the first Doctor Who spin-off, K9 and Company, but didn't get past the pilot episode. I can't imagine why.
Boring!
Meanwhile, in the wake of the enormous success of the revival of Doctor Who, Children's BBC had approached Davies about developing a spin-off which would feature the Doctor as a teenager. Davies felt this would go too far into the Doctor's past. Ha! In your face, Chibnall. However, they decided to go with making a show around Sarah Jane Smith. So how did the pilot episode, Invasion of the Bane, succeeded in getting not just one, but 5 more seasons of the Sarah Jane adventures? Let's find out.
The surface plot is about our main protagonists coming together. Sarah Jane, Maria, Luke, who's known as the archetype in the story, and as well, my favourite character, Kelsey.
What the fuck?
Yeah, we get on to it in a bit. The story is about Sarah Jane, who discovers this new company that came out of nowhere. That's already captivating. Throughout the start of the episode, it's very subtle, that gives us sprinkles of the company's product. Bubble Shop! Seeding itself in nearly every scene in Act 1, that we as an audience would immediately forget because it's irrelevant, until it shifts into conversation, putting all the pieces into place, making it relevant to the overall story. To the point where it's shoved into our faces, TV adverts, advertising boards, characters like Kelsey drinking a bottle of bubble shot in the middle of a scene and recommending Maria to have some. Basically, it's like a Skillshare advert that you see placed in every video on YouTube. Apart from us, I really like how vague it starts out being, not really on our radar yet, because it's something random on TV that you would overlook just like an extra. Out of nowhere, we see Bubble Shot blow up everywhere, showing its importance to the overall story. Whoa, Bubble Shot has a great marketing team behind them. Yo, the new Doctor Who marketing team, take some notes. We are introduced to the main characters straight away. This ties into the plot very neatly because all of them have a relevance to be there. As this is just an hour-long pilot episode, there's a lot that you need to achieve if this was going to succeed in getting a full series. We meet Maria first, who's watching a Bubble Shot advert, rather than helping a poor dad bringing boxes in, as they have just recently moved house. Typical youngsters. How dare she allow the best Doctor Who character of all time to do all the work? So disgraceful. Don't like her already. Don't like her. No, can't disrespect Alan Jackson. No. Immediately, Maria meets Kelsey, who randomly knocks at her door. Yet again, I will talk about her later. Kelsey barges through Maria's house to flick through the TV. Whilst this is good to meet another main character, I find it really weird that Maria is okay with a complete stranger she literally met a minute ago, making herself at home and being quite harsh about her dad not having the money to buy a music channel and commands Maria to make him get it. If that was personally me, I'd bloody chuck her out. However, on the flip side, Kelsey spat out my favourite quote of the episode, and perhaps, just maybe, the best piece of dialogue in cinematic history.
Sup, do you have broadband?
Kelsey then advises Maria to go into town with her. However, Maria doesn't have any money on her. So instead, they go onto the Bubble Shop bus that takes them on a tour of the factory. Because it's free, and you can't turn down something that's free. So what's the catch? Nothing, absolutely nothing as it seems. Well, apart from them walking into an x-ray machine, they're just being cautious as they might steal the recipe or do something that's illegal.
Coincidence? I think not!
The Bane, who are disguised as humans, are using the scanner to collect their DNA to make an artificial human, because they need to get the last remaining 2% of people who detect the taste of bubble shock. All the guests have to turn off their mobile phones before entering the factory itself. because the equipment is very sensitive and the signals could interfere with the machinery. In reality, it will disturb an unknown beast and sets up an emergency alarm. But later happens when Kelsey's lurking around the factory trying to find a friend. This is good because it leads all characters together, with Sarah Jane already being there because she's been very suspicious of this new company that came out of nowhere. Before they all meet, Sarah gets captured by two guards. However, that was a plan all along because she has been emailing or phoning to get an interview from the bubble shop, but no such reply. The receptionist informs this is Wormwood, who we presume is the big boss of the company. I like how she's introduced in the scene, standing in the dark, eerie room watching the archetype getting made. She recognises Sarah's name from all the unanswered emails or phone calls, so she agrees to grant Sarah an interview. She normally leaves the scene by saying something obviously evil and so cheesy. Yet you've got to take in mind the main target audience is for children like myself back in 2007. But as an adult now, it's hard to be threatened by her or lose any sort of tension with her.
Bring it on. That didn't go well.
Sarah states that Mrs. Wormwood's name is from the Bible. The definition of wormwood is a star that would fall to Earth and taint the world's water supply. As you can guess, the Bane came to Earth and every bottle of bubble shot has a piece of Bane inside it. So the mother of the Bane can convert the human race who have already drunk bubble shot into Bane zombies or something. And after all this, they would call it...
Let this become Bane World!
I'm sorry, love, what did you say?
Let this become Bane World!
You know what? The Bane have planned this devious plan pretty damn well, manipulating people on drinking this brainwashing drink to turn the human race into zombies quite easily, to then find out that just another alien species has taken over the world and call it Bane World. Are you kidding me? In any other episode, Maria would be the surrogate character to Sarah Jane Smith. However, we follow Maria more than Sarah Jane in this episode, seeing it majority from her eyes. I like how this pilot episode mirrors the first episode of the revival of Doctor Who, and as well the other spin-off show, Torchwood. Maria is like Rose Tyler in her first episode as we follow her around. We find ourselves learning more about Maria as a character before we meet the main protagonist / mental figure, Sarah Jane Smith, who we can't relate to just yet because of...
She's completely looped the loop.
There, do you see?
It also establishes her relationship with her parents, as they've just recently moved down to Barrowman Road, with her dad Alan, who's equivalent to Shaggy because he's the most powerful Doctor Who character of all time. Yeah, he used 2% of his powers to lift those boxes. I'm just saying.
It's over for you, warrior known as
Alan. As well, her parents are separated. This grounds her in reality, making it easy for the audience to warm up to her. Yet we do see her parents keep bickering around, making her feel more like an outsider. However, that later works in her favour because in the later episodes she spends more time with Sarah Jane and the gang compared to her family. I like how she isn't happy with the move as she's separated with her friends and feels alone before she gets into the main chunk of the plot, making her feel really relatable to the audience. Like the 9th Doctor Series 1, Sarah Jane Smith comes across mysterious to our main characters, despite not being the focus of this episode until she meets Maria properly. We are given everything we need to know about Sarah. She's a very private person who works alone and doesn't want anyone to get close to her. Remind you of anyone? Like, she doesn't want anything to do with Maria before warming up to her later on. I especially like how she's closed off from society as she can't really open about what she sees because she would come across as a mad woman. So it makes sense why it's hard for her to open up to these characters who end up being her family and eventually would act like a mental figure to these characters in the later episodes, apart from Kelsey. The experiment who rebelled from his creations. I love this character to bits. And this episode is a perfect way to start his character journey of fitting in the world that he goes through until series 4. I absolutely adore his one-liners. They generally still give me a chuckle to this very day. Rather than the dribble dialogue we get from the villains, he's just a great character.
Hello, Maria. Hello, Screaming Girl.
I have very mixed opinions on these shape-shifting squid creatures, as they are set up rather well, but they make it so obvious that they are evil.
But you can't retire. There's evil afoot.
What? Evil?
On the other end, their objectives to make their plan succeed was surprisingly genius. It was so clever. As well, you can clearly tell there was a lot of thought going into this. However, the overall plan fell flat to me. It felt the most obvious route to go, but saying that, their plan of taking over the world would have actually worked. Yet their own creation, the archetype, was the thing that stopped them. I originally thought it was lazy and rushed. To an extent, I still think like that. However, I like how Luke uses his intelligence to overcome them, because early in the episode, Mr. Smith finds a secret phone number. As well, Luke uses 10,000 humans that the Bane gave him in order to recall the frequency number that Mr. Smith said out loud. Then he programs the transmitter device with the Bane's frequency to destroy the Bane's mother. Luke finding a hole in their flawless plan and bringing everything down, absolutely brilliant. However, the Bane's overall design doesn't hold up all these years later, which sucks, because it flattens all the tension away when the Bane attacks Sarah's house. It still has injected quite a lot of energy into the story. It just looks rather funny, to be honest. It feels more like you added a random green screen that you found on YouTube that you can tell looks absolutely cheap to the very bone. It's such a shame. I left the best till last. Kelsey is a very unusual character for me because she's my new favourite memorable character in the Doctor Who universe. I do apologise, Elton Pope. For real, she's written and performed as being a big mouth and annoying character. There's no redeeming features to her. She just has no limits. You really do feel for Maria when Kelsey's just rude to her. And I'm just surprised that Maria just puts up with it, to be honest with you. She does make me laugh, but maybe not in the way that they were expecting. Her character clearly didn't sit well with audiences, as they replaced her with a better character, Clyde Langer. You can clearly tell they were trying to make Kelsey a contrast to the other characters, Maria Jackson and Luke Smith, with her attitude problem. There are reports that she was a destructive presence on sets, so they got rid of her. We can all say this with absolute confidence, that this was a good shout for them replacing her with Clyde Langer. With the failure of capturing the archetype, the Bane results in taking over all the bubbleshot drinkers, including Alan and Kelsey. I like this. It finally reveals why they desperately need everybody to drink the product, and makes perfect sense why they created the archetype in the first place, as the 2% of people don't like the taste of it. And that's completely fine because I don't like particular food or drinks that my friends would like, so I completely understand this motive. However, they don't have the archetype anymore, so they do the next big thing, turning everybody who has drunken bubbleshot into zombies, getting them to do the dirty job of obtaining the 2% of people to drink it. Yeah, I don't like how it's handled. They're just walking around spitting out
Drink it.
Drink it. Drink it.
No.
It's not like they're gonna do anything. Maybe if we saw them violently forcing people to drink bubbleshot, it would actually feel like the characters are in real danger, rather than just walking around the streets. You could easily push them over, and they wouldn't do anything about it. It just feels weird, and it takes away the impact of the Bane's plan. It's a shame really, because I think the overall plan was perfectly done, but they just threw it out the window. It feels like they wrote themselves into a corner. But hey, it's a children's show. It doesn't need a good payoff that I invested my time into. Invasion of the Bane is a good starting on point if you dismiss the CGI in the story, because it for sure shows its age. As well, most of the weak performances from the supporting cast.
Let this become Bane World!
this episode still remains pretty good. It tells you everything you need to know about this new spin-off show to Doctor Who, but it's a comfortable viewing experience. This episode doesn't rely too much on being a Doctor Who spin-off show. In a way, it feels more separate from it and standalone. The overall story was simple and clever in parts, yet the execution was poorly used. But the episode is more than them investigating Bubble Shop. It develops Sarah Jane on opening up to people as she's been on her own for years, just talking to Mr. Smith and K9. We see her blessed with a new start, with being a mother and friends to her neighbours. However, this pilot episode obviously succeeded, as we got 4 more seasons after it. It got 3 million viewers on New Year's Day, and it definitely left an impression on your boy George from Time of the Whovians United. It's not entirely the best episode of the series by a long shot, but it's still an enjoyable episode to watch, so I got to give it a solid B on the Series 1 tier list. Make sure to write in the comments your honest opinions on the invasion of the Bane. Did you like it? Does it hold up? Or has Kelsey stolen your broadband? But most importantly, go subscribe to Time of the Whovians United. Side note, every 2 weeks you'll get a review from me on the first series of the Sarah Jane Adventures, with a random video in between. Anyways, please excuse me, I need to grab a bottle of vinegar for the next review, because the farting aliens are back. Oh boy, this is going to be fun.